All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us once again on another episode of the Remarkable Coach podcast. Today with me, I have Christine Meyer. Christine Meyer is a life coach whose mission is to empower, uplift, and educate. She believes that everyone can enjoy and playfully live, and that no apologies ever are required for that. Her book, Keep It Simple, Smarty Pants, was awarded #1 new release on Amazon in 2020. Christine Meyer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
To start out, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about why you got into coaching, how you got into coaching, and what's your MO? What are you about?
I blundered into coaching years and years ago. I didn't even know about coaching. And when I heard about it, I immediately resonated and said to myself, I want to do that. And I haven't looked back since. Now, why that resonated with me is really because I've always wanted to be helpful. I've
Mm-hmm.
always resonated with the idea of self-development. And back then, it was more about fixing myself for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I came from that perspective. And as a young child, I remember thinking, perhaps not in these thoughts in particular, but as I translate them now, it was, I didn't understand what was going on around me in the universe. And I wanted to understand. I could tell people had emotions, and I could tell sometimes people would say words that they didn't really mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was this keen desire to understand what was really happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so that coaching just really became a natural evolution of my life and what I've come to know to that point. And what I truly want is the empowerment for everyone. I want people to feel good. I want people to know who they are and how truly empowered they are born being.
Yeah, that's great. I like uh, I like to circle back a little bit. I like the phrase "I blundered" into coaching. A lot of people have very specific origin stories. And I myself have blundered into maybe a dozen different careers over the course of my life, so I can relate to that a lot. I like tell me a little bit more about what this series, maybe a series of events that kind of led up to that, and what that kind of transformation, I guess, or just that what that change kind of looked like or felt like.
Well, what led up to that truly was a lifelong, as far as I can remember, uh, seeking of understanding.
Right.
And I read books, I read all of that stuff. So, excuse me, prior to that, I was in real estate. I started
Mm-hmm.
selling real estate when I was 18 years old. I was in banking, I was in insurance. I did a lot of things. I was a personal
Yep.
trainer, interior decorator, owned a fencing business. And it, all of it just really contributes to my ability to run a business now, my ability to understand business, my ability to understand entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
and so much of it really the pieces that whether I blundered into them or whether I more intentionally did them or specifically identified them really have contributed to my ability as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about your book. Keep It Simple, Smarty Pants. I had a chance to read it cover to cover. I thought it was
Great.
fantastic. I noticed some I noticed that if I feel like you're taking maybe a page or two from kind of some Stoic philosophy, a little bit of Marcus Aurelius in there. I have one um, tab here that says on page 34, that
I'll pull my
story
book out.
that story about how if your mother-in-law would stop meddling in your stuff, you'd feel so much better. Well, you might be happier if she stopped meddling, but you don't have to wait until she stops to feel better. That is so empowering,
Good. That's
right? I mean, that's
why it's
yeah.
there.
It's. I like the. So again, it kind of feels like a page from Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics, where it's like you can't choose how the world behaves, but you can choose how you respond to the world.
Correct. And it's not your job to control how the world behaves.
Yeah.
either. And a lot of people get into this work. A lot of my clients are under the impression, or people are under the understanding of law of attraction,
Hmm.
or create my own reality, as if, all right, good, I'll get to control people around me, right? And I'll get exactly what I want the way I want it, so that I can be happy, or so that I can feel good, or so that I'm no longer annoyed by that person. And that's not really the point. The point is self-empowerment. And the
Hmm.
point is perspective is everything. And the thoughts you choose and how you decide to interpret anything in your life is the empowerment piece. That does not mean that everything must be in perfect order and in perfect condition for you to achieve the desired emotions, the desired results. It really is about empowering self and
Hmm.
making those choices. And you have a point of attraction. You are always in the process of attracting. And
Hmm.
so, given that, it is also likely that as you tune yourself to more of the feelings that you want and decide to choose that more intentionally rather than react to everything and everyone around you, guess what? Things do end up coming to you. You rendezvous with them in a more desirable way, but that's not the point of it.
Hmm. So you do you think do you think that there is something to the law of attraction, like the secret, right? The law of this law of attraction. There's something to that, but it's not entirely that.
I completely believe in the law of attraction. I completely believe that I attract. It's attraction. It's
Yep.
attraction. It's attraction. I create my reality with my thoughts.
Hmm.
And my thoughts are combined with or include my beliefs, my
Hmm.
expectations, and sometimes my beliefs and my desires and expectations do not match up.
Hmm.
And so, yes, there's something to the secret, but the big secret they didn't talk about was the emotional part.
Uh-huh.
The secret behind the secret is actually that it's your thoughts that are creating. There's a frequency that they're attracting,
Hmm.
but the way to understand your frequency is through your emotions.
Hmm.
You can't just say, I am a millionaire, let's say,
Sure.
as if that's going to attract. Because if you feel broke, what your
Hmm.
frequency is, what your point of attraction
Hmm.
is broke,
Yeah.
is not much money, not enough money. So when you are trying to cover up with words how you truly feel, you will get results that reflect how you feel,
Hmm.
not what you're saying. And then that's where a lot of people get a little lost and say, I that sh blank t doesn't work.
You can say shit. It's okay.
That shit doesn't work. And there's a misunderstanding there. It's like, well,
Hmm.
you're using the right words. Positive words are better than negative words in terms of leading you or leaning you in the direction of you what you want or what you prefer. But
Hmm.
there, if you're not affecting how you feel, that's the missing piece.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So that takes me to this page, which I love. And I also, we were chatting before we hit record about how much I love the design of the book. Pages like this help really clarify important points. Am I getting that in there? There you go.
You are.
And so talk about these four steps. It's almost like a workflow that you've um, kind of codified here.
Well, there are frequencies, right? So we'll refer to this page that you pointed at. There are frequencies that you then interpret as thoughts. So you have thoughts, you hang around on frequencies also.
Hmm.
And so they become thoughts that you think. There are all kinds of frequencies out there. Every thought that's ever been thought is still thinking. So you, depending on what you're blundering through during your day, not intentionally, you're reacting to things often. Most people react to their life and then feel. They
Hmm.
get into a situation and then feel. And then what that does is it perpetuates a point of attraction that you don't really want. So frequencies, thoughts, you think thoughts. And then if you're not making that connection of the emotions, how they feel, you keep thinking thoughts. You keep thinking thoughts that feel good. And you think many, 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 many thoughts that don't.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you're feeling something, your point of attraction is activated.
Hmm.
Okay. If you're not really having an emotional response to something, you don't have your point of attraction is not really activated. And it's not a big player in your vibration, therefore, not a big player in your point of attraction and
Mm-hmm.
what will be manifesting in your life. So if you back to this here, and then I'll go back to that. So frequencies, thoughts. So as you're having thoughts throughout your day, because we have thousands of thoughts in a day,
Sure.
very few people are paying attention to how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
you are having emotional responses to those thoughts. If you were in a day to stop and think about how that feels, you could redirect. You could redirect and redirect and redirect and redirect and do it quite easily if you caught it soon enough. But what
Mm-hmm.
most people do is get up tomorrow morning and think the thoughts that they thought today because they're there. They're easier. And that's because of law of attraction. That's because you're attracting, there's more momentum. The easier it gets to think a thought if you've thought it before. It just
Uh-huh.
becomes like this well-worn pathway,
Uh-huh.
you see? And
Yeah.
so feelings, and then your feelings, when you start having feelings about something, when there's an emotional indicator, you are in the process of attracting. And
Yep.
so eventually keep thinking that thought or that essence of thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
It will manifest, you'll bang your toe, you'll not get the job you applied for, your
Yep.
employees are going to constantly be pains in the butt.
Yep.
What your life is happening as a result of the frequencies that you're putting out there. And
Mm-hmm.
the frequencies you're putting out there are because of the thoughts you think, and you're
Mm-hmm.
having emotional indicators all day long about those things. And so always on this page, always, that is what always happens. And you perpetuate, as human beings, we tend to perpetuate what we've done. Or as we continue to tell the tale about what happened then and how crappy it was, even if it's funny, right? Pay attention to how you feel when you're telling it, because are you contradicting a desire?
Uh-huh.
How much of what you want are you actually getting? There's a big indicator. And how do you feel when you talk about what you want versus how you talk about what you don't want? And
Mm-hmm.
there's value in understanding what you don't want, obviously, for the clarification of what you do. But even when you start talking about or thinking about what you want, where your emotion will let you know whether you're focused on the absence of it
Mm-hmm.
more so,
Mm-hmm.
or the presence of it, even if it's not here. If you're excited about it, or you're making peace with where you are, you're satisfied with where you are, knowing there's something coming. It's kind of like when you plant a seed in the ground, you know that plant's coming up. You're not discouraged because it hasn't come up yet. You're
Mm-hmm.
eager for it, you expect it. But oftentimes when people want things in their lives, they check too soon. And if they are applying, you don't have to apply law of attraction. It just works, but
Sure.
understanding it helps. And if they're applying law of attraction and it's not happening, it's like, well, there's a big clue. There's a big clue right there. You're checking too soon, and you're probably more focused on the lack of it versus the having, how it feels to have it. So there's that feeling piece again. That feeling piece helps you understand where you are on your journey.
So the feeling, so frequencies, thoughts to feelings to things. You think the feelings stage is the best place to kind of use as a barometer or do like a self check? Am I
Absolutely.
heading in the right direction based on how you're feeling at any given time?
It's like an indicator. It's like when you're driving your car and you put your blinkers on, that's an
Yeah.
indicator of where you're going.
Yep.
It's the same. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you can use your feelings as an indicator, and not as a reason to beat yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh crap! I'm still focused on what I don't want.
Yep.
No, it's your emotions are there as guidance and as indicators so that you know what you're creating and you can make a choice.
Mm-hmm. So I was just taking some notes here. Um, we've all had we've all had those days. You wake up and you're not having a great morning, and like you said, maybe you'll stub your toe, you spill your coffee, uh, whatever. Like when it rains, it pours. is the note that I took. So in those situations, if everything starts with frequencies, how do you take a situation like that? How do you be self-aware? Number one, how do you be self-aware enough to realize that shit's going the wrong way and you need to pause and figure out how to turn it around? And number two, how do you adjust the frequencies? Does that track?
Great question. Yeah, yeah. So shit's going the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, you had an indicator before that happened, your mood,
Mm-hmm.
right? You woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You hear often you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling too busy, you feel like you don't have enough time, don't have enough money, your kids are harassing you, your dogs need to go out, your whatever, right? So there's a mood indicator before any of that happens. So how do you reset? Well, again, the point isn't to beat yourself up. The point is if you can, you just take a minute, and an easy way is to take a few breaths,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just because as I continue to react, then I'm going to perpetuate that throughout my day, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one way. You just take a beat, you stop and you take some breaths, you calm yourself down. It's nice to have something that you can relate to in terms of an image in your mind or a place that you like to go. I ask my clients to make a list of things that they can easily feel good about so that they have it right there with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you sit and you think about that. And a lot of people would sit and stew about their stubbed toe or about their child that just misbehaved
Yeah.
or numerous things.
Sure.
And when you're in that place, that's not the time to be thinking about anything like that. And it's not the time to be trying to solve it. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, what you're thinking about now is perpetuating what comes next. So
Mm-hmm.
you're truly best to just take a walk, take a breath, get out in the sunshine, or whatever it is that you know can help you be distracted from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Feel better,
Yeah.
move your body, turn some music on. It's really simple stuff. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. But the point is that I can feel better. And the
Mm-hmm.
other thing is that the desire to feel better, not to make the
Yeah.
negative emotion, not to make the bad mood bad or wrong. It's just simply, hey, wait a minute. This is my now, and my now is the most powerful moment I have right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do at this moment? I can be in a bad mood. That's fine. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to choose the bad mood then,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus, or I can say, all right, I don't like feeling like this so much. I'd rather feel better. So, another way to be more engaged in the activity of shifting the vibration, to your point, shifting the frequency. And this
Mm-hmm.
won't work all the time because you could be so involved in what just happened that you're just in a really shitty mood and it's just not going to go anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
that is when you just never mind. But sometimes you have the wherewithal because you've been feeling good maybe yesterday and the day before and the day before that, and maybe you've been meditating. So now you're thinking, all right, well, rather than think that my life sucks, what thought can I think that feels slightly better? Well,
Mm-hmm.
this moment sucks, but my life for the most part doesn't, right? Now
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like an extremely positive thought. Christine, that's a negative thought. Like, well, you got to give yourself a bridge. You
Mm-hmm.
can't go
Baby
from,
steps.
it's baby steps. You
Yeah.
can't go from feeling really bad mood to being all full of rainbows and sunshines and
DiCaprio on the Titanic.
you know it's just not going to work because there's
Sure.
momentum going in the opposite direction. It's like if a train was
Yeah.
going really fast, you got to give it time to slow down. So that's how you slow down that momentum of thoughts that were creating more of what you didn't want. You
Yeah.
ask yourself, is there something I can think about or do that feels better? And it's just a teeny tiny bit. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, but stick to it. and
Mm-hmm.
then and then you will improve your day. You will improve this moment, and you might blunder into another moment and stub your toe again.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. It's just that recognition and making the association. I ask people to start making those associations between their moods and what's happening, because there's always a correlation. It's not random. It's not by coincidence. It's not by accident. It's not by luck or
Mm-hmm.
lack thereof.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So frequencies are the drivers of everything else, and the way to change your frequency is through thinking about it. Almost. So I'm not sure. So help me clarify this. So if the way to flip things around is to take baby steps to better and better thoughts, how is that adjusting the frequency? Does that question make
Well,
sense?
because your thoughts are always a frequency, right? When
Yep.
and in the book, when your thoughts don't feel good, you're on lower frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
You're pointed in opposition to your desires and not in the same frequency as your soul, again in the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and also another way, back to what can we do about these frequencies? Sometimes it is about, I'm going to just stop and I'm going to think about how I want to feel in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and to do that, you can think about a feeling and feel
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes for some people it works better. I'm not really thinking about the feeling. I'm just going to feel it. So it really depends on what is your best approach to things. There's not a right way or a wrong way to it, but it really is, again, incorporating that feeling place. When you feel a shift in that thought feels better, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to feel for a feeling that feels better, then that lets you know that frequency has changed. Your point of attraction has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. And why is that important? Why is all this stuff important to know? Again, because you are a human being living this life, and whether you know it or not, or like it or not, you have a frequency aspect of you that you can blend with every
Mm-hmm.
day,
Mm-hmm.
that is infinite intelligence, or not. And when you're not blending with it, it's never separate from you, but you can have the experience of being separate from it. And that's when you feel vulnerable. That's when you feel overwhelmed. That's when you feel unheard, unloved, all of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you work, air quotes here, work to make that relationship a priority, your experience of life is exponentially better,
Mm-hmm.
and your point of attraction is matched with that, which your soul, your source, your God, your Santa, your Easter bunny,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it, has one point of attraction, and it's a very high frequency. And so that's why that emotional piece lets you know when you're closer to that or when you're further from that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are thinking thoughts that contradict that frequency and also your desires, because that soul aspect of you joins the frequency of your desires,
Mm-hmm.
when you're feeling any kind of contradiction in that sense, you're going to know it through your negative emotion. That lets you know, hey, you're pointed over there. You're
Mm-hmm.
going south, but you said you wanted to go north.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is good stuff. I want to add in here too that all of this is really based on science.
Yep.
For me, I've gone through the Biocybernaut Alpha One training,
Yeah.
and I've seen I've seen the results from EKGs or ECGs, I guess, an electroencephalogram, ECG, where I've spent some time in the chambers, in the Biocybernaut chambers, and seen what my brainwaves look like on the other end when I was thinking about specific things.
Yep.
And it's not this isn't woo woo stuff. This is all founded very firmly in science, which is something that's it's more important to some people, less important to others, I suppose. But for me, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I don't explain it in a scientific way, certainly, but you're absolutely right. It's all there. It really
Yeah.
is all there. And my approach to helping people understand this is just in a practical, everyday kind of experience of your own experience of
Hmm.
being a human being, and understanding, making those correlations between your thoughts, what you were thinking, and how you were feeling, and what happened. That's
Hmm.
not, sometimes people now get afraid of their thoughts, and that's not the intention. That's not the point of it. It's just to be awareness, because if you want to have a life that is full and meaningful and fulfilling, and most people want to feel good living their lives. Nobody wants to feel bad.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to feel bad, and it's not bad or wrong to feel bad. It's good. Those are as good of indicators as feeling good. But if you know which direction you're going, it's like using your GPS. Now you're not lost in the woods.
Yeah. I was going to ask, what do you, if you know, if a client is having a bad day, do you ever recommend, like, if you are feeling crappy and you just, you know, want to feel it, like lean into it and just feel crappy for a little while, if that's what you want to do you recommend that at all, or how do you approach a situation like that? Because sometimes you're having a bad day and you're just like, oh, I just feel like crap, and you want to, sometimes for me, I know leaning into it and just feeling that bad feeling for a little bit will let it go away easier.
Well, I think you're hitting it on the head there. Is that, let it make peace with where you are.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not about avoiding where you are. It's not about avoiding manifestations that you don't want. It's about living your life and understanding what you're in the process of doing and choosing.
Hmm.
And if you make peace with all emotions and welcome them, embrace your emotions. But people take that to an extreme where they'll feel badly about something, but then they have to figure out why and what and how, and then they tell people, and they tell someone else, and they tell someone else, and now they're perpetuating it, because it's okay to figure it out, get a good bead on what you're feeling, and then move on, decide how would I prefer to feel, what is it that I want, what has this clarified for me, what are the benefits of this situation. You see,
Hmm.
again, I'm doing little cliff notes here of it. There are different approaches to this, but
Yeah.
absolutely acknowledge how you feel. But you've got to understand, in the book, it's like your emotions might are important. Your emotions matter. I don't even know what it's called, that chapter. Your emotions matter, but it might perhaps not, because you, for the reasons you think. It's
Hmm.
not what it's called, but anyway, something like that. And the piece there to understand is that your emotions are indicating to you, not that there's something wrong or bad happening here.
Hmm.
They're indicating to you the gap or the alignment between you and your soul. And
Yep.
that's a really, 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 really important piece, because I used to think that my emotions were true, air quotes here, right? True. And
Hmm.
they validated my opinion in some kind of way. And that
Yep.
however I felt was justified and right,
Hmm.
instead of understanding that piece, that this is an indicator of my gap or harmony with my soul. And from that perspective, you can understand your emotions in a whole different way, more as indicators versus truths. And that's not at all implying that your feelings are not valid. They're always valid, but is that how you want to continue to perceive this thing you're perceiving, and is this how you want to continue creating it? It's just more information for you to more intentionally live the life that you want and know
Hmm.
how to do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I like the phrase that you used to make peace with your emotions. I think that's very important because and not to, it's not about, you said it's not about avoiding certain
No,
emotions. Certainly, if a loved one or a pet passes away, you need to allow yourself to feel like shit for a while. It's super important.
so to that point, if you feel like shit, right? You just, from your perspective, you just lost a human being or a pet that you love.
Hmm.
And understandably so. And
Hmm.
a little bit beyond that
Hmm.
also is a broader understanding that it's just a change in form,
Hmm.
that person, again, not about the condition, that person or your pet while they're not here. And yes, you will for sure likely miss them because you're used to being in their presence. But it is a shift in perspective to understand, and many people already believe this,
Mhm.
certainly, that the spirit is still there. So
Mhm.
it's that sense of loss. It's the perspective that I've lost something that is creating that missing,
Yep.
creating that pain that you're experiencing. And if you could understand that there's no loss here, it's just a change in form, then
Yeah.
perhaps you don't feel so much loss and you can now enjoy the new relationship. But that's a big one for humans for the most part to understand and get that. And of course, it's totally fine
Yeah.
to be sad and to grieve. Absolutely. But it's really good to say, I'm grieving now,
Hmm.
and that's okay. And maybe someday I'll feel better.
Hmm.
I'd like to feel better at some point. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to skip over it. You don't have to pretend it's not happening.
Hmm.
But it's understanding again that your soul is always calling you, always calling you, always calling you, always calling you into that feeling of wholeness, into that feeling and broader perspective that 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 is available to you.
Hmm. Yeah,
Does
and I
that make
think
sense?
completely. Yeah, 100%, 100%. And what you had mentioned there too about, you know, well, if some people believe in like a soul leaving a body at death or something like that. It's a change, not necessarily a loss. That too is grounded in science, in particle physics, particularly energy can never be created nor destroyed, only transferred. And that is a particle physics fact,
Yep.
which is beautiful to think about. If anyone, if you lose someone, they're not gone. The energy's just been transferred.
It's just a change in shape and form. Yeah. And I like to think about it. That doesn't mean that I wasn't sad. I've had many dogs. That doesn't mean that I wasn't sad when my dogs departed, but departed this shape and form. But
Hmm.
that understanding helped me a whole lot.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just a change in
And
state.
only when I pointed at the missing did I feel sad. When I was aware of that relationship that still existed, that just took a different shape and form, I
Hmm.
didn't feel missing. I don't feel missing. But if I
Hmm.
go to, oh, but he or she isn't around anymore, then I feel that disconnection from my soul's perspective on this.
Hmm.
And it's not this or that. We truly are blended beings. We just have an awareness of the blendedness or not.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. Let me see here. Got some other notes. So, page 99, I've got highlighted here. Don't journal yourself into feeling worse by digging deeper.
Yeah.
Digging deeper down the rabbit hole only reveals more rabbits. They multiply fast, and there's no end to them. I think that flies in the face of a lot of
I know.
other common um, common advice that people, that coaches like yourself give. Talk a little bit about that, because just a lot of people will say, journaling helps you get it out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, if you would talk a little bit about that.
I'd love
Curious.
to talk a little bit about that. So again, understanding, once you start understanding that you are always in the process of attracting, that you are always creating, and that your thoughts create more of that which you are thinking about, does it make sense to, and law of attraction at work? So if I go looking for trouble, I'll tell you, I'll find it. I'll find it. And as I keep looking for trouble and things wrong, right,
Mm-hmm.
problems, because I'm on that frequency, I can think of that and 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 that. It's never,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never ever 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 get to the bottom of it.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be more
Mm-hmm.
because you keep attracting more. And then from that lens, it's like putting a different lens on a camera. It's like you look through this lens and you see, perhaps you see the details of the green leaves out and the trees and the bark. And you put
Mm-hmm.
this lens on and you see a whole different picture that's more muted or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying ignore how you feel. It's like, it's good to identify how you feel. And it's also good to identify how you would like to feel, because as you keep digging, those rabbits will multiply. Those rabbits will multiply. And you could stay in that place of perspective about things forever, instead of identifying and deciding, all right, is there a different perspective that I can have about this?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can transform from a different frequency. You can transform your whole childhood.
Mm-hmm.
You just can. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that those things, whatever those things that happened, didn't happen. We're not saying that those things didn't happen, but from a different lens, from a different frequency, they look different. They
Mm-hmm.
look different, and you can interpret them differently, and you can see them as beneficial to you, something that you did ask for, meaning from your soul perspective, you're not saying that's good and that's bad, that's good and that's bad. You're here for the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You're here for the creation of you, the discovery of you, and to sift and sort and decide and prefer.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, a lot of journaling happens with that perspective of, I'm just going to talk about my feelings. I'm going to keep talking about how that person pissed me off because they're wrong, or how that happened and it was unfair, but they
Mm-hmm.
stay there.
Mm-hmm.
They stay there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I was, and that's where I'm staying. And I'm going to hold that perspective, that mood, that attitude about that for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You leave it there, guess what? You're going to rendezvous with more of that same similar essence. So
Mm-hmm.
isn't it worth taking the time to figure out and choose and decide how you would prefer to feel, and choose thoughts that feel better about that? You don't have to do it all at once. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be positive thoughts. You can go from really negative to slightly less negative thoughts. That's it. If you're going to journal, do that. Do that. Right? Acknowledge how you feel, let it be, make peace with it. Walk away. But then don't leave it there, because that's how people have patterns in their lives.
Do you see value then in? Do you see any value in exercising those demons inside of you, like exercising those bad feelings by journaling about them, I guess, in this context, in this conversation? Or is it more valuable? It sounds like, I don't want to put words into your mouth. Is it more valuable to transform those demons instead of exercising them? Does that question make sense?
That would be a really great way, a really great way to say it. Yeah. Because again, the more demons you're trying to exercise, the more you'll find. Purely,
Yeah.
like, if you think you need fixing, if you think that you're broken, you'll find all kinds of things and reasons why you'll validate that belief, you
Mm-hmm.
see. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's two different realities. It's, again, it's never making where you are wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but it is choosing. It is about that empowerment piece. Because if you if you keep going back into your childhood from the same perspective that things, or yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective that things were done to you, things are done to you, and you're not creating your reality, you're not at all a participant, there's no empowerment in that.
Sure.
There's no empowerment in that. And also, not in any of this work that I do with anyone, it's not about blaming. It's not about blaming yourself and saying, oh, well, I deserve this. It's like, no, it's just understanding that your thoughts create,
Mm-hmm.
period. And you
Mm-hmm.
have more control over what you are creating and rendezvousing with than you might be giving yourself credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that is the case.
Like
And a
everything.
lot of people are more willing to say, well, yeah, it works there, but not there.
Mm-hmm.
This is across the board.
Mm-hmm.
This is across the board. And all of this work that I do is truly for your empowerment, is for
Mm-hmm.
you to stand and own how you feel and own your creations,
Mm-hmm.
so that you understand that there's nothing out there that can harm you in that sense. It's nothing is being asserted onto you. It's all you, and be proud of it. Be
Mm-hmm.
proud of the shit, be proud of the storm, be proud of the trouble, be proud of the wins, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Be proud of it. It's you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think that the whole book really, um, I think you hit on a a cultural zeitgeist right now of feeling offended and putting the onus of your happiness on other people to not offend you, and taking ownership and taking that responsibility for yourself and your own feelings. You're gonna get so much further, and you're gonna live a happier life. You're when I yeah I just I don't know. I think everyone, who has ever been offended should read this book. I really do. I really do.
Well, thank you. And yes, it's true because we do live in a world right now that is easily offended, that is asking everyone else to change so
Everyone
that
else. No one wants to
so that
change.
I can feel good, right?
Yep.
Please
100%.
change so that I can feel good. Change that, do this, don't do that, don't do that, don't say that, don't say it that way. You need to know every angle and every meaning and every thing that everyone should want so that we don't offend anybody. It's like, oh, how about taking responsibility and credit for self and and
Yep.
interpreting it through self. So again, that perspective is like, well, I can take it that way and be offended, or I can say, all right, well, tell myself whatever might feel bad. That doesn't mean you deserve to be mistreated or misspoken to, or this gets a little mixed up with people who are on that farther side of the fence because, oh, that's again, it's not about that, but it's like, take ownership of you standing right here in this moment,
Yep.
and take ownership of how you feel and the direction of what you're going to think next,
Mm-hmm.
and stop blaming everybody else. Take
Mm-hmm.
credit, take the credit, because it's not about the conditions needing to change, which is right now it's a very conditional world.
Mm-hmm.
If these conditions don't change, I won't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Only if they change to this, I will. And that's a very, 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 very powerless state of being. And that's
Yeah.
also why I see people feeling so vulnerable, because they have a complete misunderstanding of who they are. And they
Mm-hmm.
believe that everything around them is happening sort of randomly. And that's just not the case.
Yeah. If you'll let me, I've highlighted a couple paragraphs here that I'd like to read from the book that
Sure.
are that I thought, that brought me to this conclusion that what this book is really hitting on is this cultural zeitgeist, and one of the reasons why I believe everyone should read it. So it's just from page 102. It says, imagine you're at a buffet and you see a dish of turnips. You don't like turnips, not one bit. Well, you don't have to force yourself to like them. You don't have to pretend to like them. You don't have to deny that you don't like them. Just don't take the turnips. Just don't take the damn turnips is actually what your sentence is. Just don't take the damn turnips. I love your candor in this book, by the way. Um, you can let the turnips be turnips. Just don't put them on your plate. Instead, put the things on that you like to eat on your plate. Choose other things. You don't have to call the restaurant manager and scold him for putting turnips on the buffet. You don't have to demand him to get them off the buffet. Just let them be. It's counterproductive to keep pointing out and pointing at what you don't like and what you don't want on your plate. There's no need to amplify what you don't like any more than there's a need to get the turnips off the buffet before you can enjoy the rest of the food. There's no need to poke a bear, meaning make it bigger. If you pay no attention to, let them be, and get on with the business of putting things on your plate that you want to eat, those turnips become a non-issue. I apologize. I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I read very slowly, and reading out loud is a
You
little
did
bit.
great. You did great. Thanks. It's fun. It was fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Who wrote that anyway?
So just when I read that, I was like, that is something that word needs to be out in the world more right now. This is the time. That message is needed by so many people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that came about because I don't like turnips.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I use all kinds of analogies in my calls that that I've experienced myself, but I don't like turnips, and I don't have to make myself like turnips, but I don't have to keep telling you how I don't like turnips.
Right.
Why is that relevant? What
Yeah.
is relevant? What do you want? What do you like? Where do you want to go? you see?
Yeah.
And I don't have to, again, be mad at anyone who serves me turnips
Hmm.
for
Just don't
for
eat 'em.
any reason. Just don't eat them.
Don't
Just
fucking
don't
eat
eat
them.
them.
It's not that
Yeah,
big a deal.
exactly. So it is a, again, perpetuating that thought form, and that a lot of people buy into and live,
It's
that
the precious worldview, where my worldview is so precious, it's all that matters.
and I'm breakable,
And I'm
and
yeah.
I'm breakable if it doesn't adjust to what I want. Instead of, that's just so powerless. It truly is so powerless. And this book is also about joyfully, playfully living. When
Yeah.
you decide that you're in charge, you can feel good. You really can. You can feel good no matter what. And
Yep.
not every moment of every single day, but you can keep making those choices. And guess what? Choices of happy moments make up for a happy, joyful life.
Hmm. Yeah. Freaking out about the turnips is a great way to paint yourself into a corner, and you're stuck.
You're stuck. You won't, you'll, again, you'll find more things to complain about. Now
Hmm.
you won't like the boiled eggs on the buffet. Now you won't like the whatever it is. And now everybody and everything has to change so that you can feel good. And
Yeah.
that's just not the way it has to be.
Hmm. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. I want to be respectful of your time, but if you've got a few more minutes for a couple of additional questions,
You bet. Yeah,
awesome.
this is fun. I love this. I love that you went through the book so well.
I, well, I told you the audience doesn't know this, but we were scheduled to record 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm a little bit dyslexic, so I read incredibly slowly. I read with a subnominal voice, a subliminal voice. So I just read very slowly, and there was no way I was going to read the book by the time we had our last
Right.
podcast. So we
This
rescheduled.
works. Yeah. So I want to show this page.
Yeah.
Action can't and won't compensate for misalignment.
Hmm.
So that's another, I want you to ask the questions, but that's just something else that we touched on earlier, where words can't cover up your frequency, words can't cover up your vibration. Okay. Your frequency is still the frequency. And the way that you understand whether your frequency is more in alignment or not is by the way that you feel. But also, if you continue to approach things from that same frequency, it speaks to, if you keep doing things over and over again the same way you've always done it and expect different results, right? Kind of the same thing. If you keep approaching things from that same frequency, you're going to continue getting similar results,
Hmm.
because you can't compensate with action that misalignment, that discord, that contradiction. It's going to play itself out somehow. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. Completely. Yeah, thanks for adding that in there. I apologize. That was not one of the pages that I had marked, but I had other pages marked.
That's okay. It opened itself up. So there
That's
you
great.
go.
That's great. So tell us a little bit, moving, away from the book a little bit. Tell us about your clients. Who are they? What do they do? What's your ideal client look like?
Oh, they're fabulous, brilliant, amazing people. They really are. They're so smart. And they are founders of companies, CEOs of companies, philanthropists, investors, parents, uh, spouses, so on.
Mm-hmm.
They're in business somehow, or I've had some radio, media people. They're sort of all over the gamut in terms of profession, but what they have in common is that they're all extremely bright,
Mm-hmm.
very, very smart, and accomplished as well. Accomplished in the worldview sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And they've come to a place where they either have felt or feel like things are a little more random than they want them to be, or they've heard about law of attraction and think I'm a law of attraction coach. And
Mm-hmm.
again, while I am that, it's like law of attraction is like
Hard.
101 compared to what you get with me, right?
Sure. No.
So So what they really want is to be in charge of their lives and understand how to get more consistent results.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not necessarily in a bad feeling place when they come to me, but they might be reaching for something. They might feel something is missing in their lives. They might want to improve things,
Mm-hmm.
but they're generally high achievers in general. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily like to use that term, but they're just successful, brilliant people,
High performers, maybe.
high performers, intelligent, kind, giving people who do care about their feeling and how they feel. And they're usually quite sensitive to energy. So they've had this life experience of being aware of things and not always quite understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing people. I adore, admire, and just love the people that I get to work with. They're amazing, amazing people. And they're all of them are in a leadership sort of position where they are influencing other people or can be influencing other people.
What does an engagement typically look like?
Well, typically it's a minimum now of 9 months that we work together. And
Why 9 months?
we, why? Because I feel like that is what will get you on your way to consistently applying what we talk about. Because if we talk, you and I could talk for 10 minutes and you could say to me something that you weren't feeling very good about, that you'd like a different perspective on, and I deliver in that 10 minutes, and you would, I will guarantee you would feel better about that. You'd have a whole different perspective. You'd walk away and you think that's better. But if we're not talking on the phone, so typically it's 1 hour ish. It's
Mm-hmm.
a engagement once a week together, and
Mm-hmm.
that depends. Everything is completely customized to my clients. I hear what they need, what they want, and where what they're shooting for, and then I really do customize everything accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason for the minimum 9 months is because I want this to become a new habit for you. And for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, you've got other habits.
Yep.
And for you to start integrating what we're about to talk about, the three foundations that I have put in the book, there are way more than that, but the
Mm-hmm.
three basic ones, and integrating that understanding and applying it and having the awareness and then the tools that we talk about, it takes a while. You don't just, and to break, quote unquote, break a habit, you have to substitute it with a new one. So it really is about creating those new pathways
Mm-hmm.
for people and for them to get the tools and apply them and see the results themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always pointing them toward, well, how does that feel to you? I don't have all the answers,
Mm-hmm.
but I can hear and feel what you're saying to me. And I can say, well, you're not quite aligned with that, or you are aligned with that, or perhaps you said, I'm going to do this, and you haven't done it yet. So now you think you're procrastinating, and you think, and all of these labels. And it's like, well, perhaps you're just not aligned with it. Let's take that procrastination label right out of there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got split energy is what you've got. That's your biggest problem. That's everybody's biggest problem, is they have split energy. I want this, but
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
really,
So
that's
in
the biggest problem.
So in that 9 months, so going back to the question, what does the engagement look like? Within that 9 months, do you meet with them once a week? Is it a Zoom call kind of thing? And is
I
it the
don't do Zoom.
assignments?
I don't do Zoom.
Okay.
It's always on the phone. And I think I've done that for 20 years. And that's just been a really good approach to things.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the progression of technology and the ability to do Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it works way better for me
Mm-hmm.
also to be really focused on what you're saying to me and receiving it, not visually, but auditorily, and really
Sure.
feeling it. And it can be, as again, customized. So depending on the client, what they need, how involved they are with whatever it is that they are involved with, I completely customize
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you need, that I feel will contribute to your empowerment, obviously not disabling you. And so yeah, it could be three
Sure.
times a week. It could be, it really, really, really depends. And then we reassess.
Okay.
And for the most part, clients who sign on with me stay with me for a long time, because with this work, you can always discover more. That's what
Mhm.
I love about this work, is that it never ends. The understanding and the knowledge and the application never ends. It just never ends. There's always more to understand. So it's exciting.
Nice. Yeah. So, what kind of struggles do you face as a coach?
I want to say I as a coach, I don't.
Okay.
Okay. I don't feel struggle at all in being present with my clients or knowing how to guide them to
Hmm.
their own guidance. I feel like I was, if I had been destined, if I felt that destiny was assigned to us at all, which I don't, but I feel like I was born to do this. So I don't have a struggle there. What sometimes comes into play is observing what other approaches are, meaning what other coaches might be doing, or what the online world is telling us how
Hmm.
to be, how to market ourselves, or how to, that would be my least favorite thing to think about, is perhaps how I could put it.
Okay.
And I've always done things my way,
Hmm.
and it doesn't always fit the mold.
Hmm.
So if I was to assign a word to it, it doesn't feel like struggle, but it feels like split energy to me. It's more
Hmm.
of a split of energy than I prefer. And that's not all the time, but that I can become aware of when
Hmm.
I'm thinking I should be doing something different or more like,
Hmm.
and again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've got no reason to feel like that. And we're human, right? We observe the world around us and we see things happening. And so that would be the biggest area I would think where I would have any split energy come up.
Yeah. Interesting. That
Does
makes
that
sense.
answer your question?
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Um, Tell us about some big wins that you've had with your clients. You can redact any private information, but tell us about some big wins that you've had.
As in the results that they get?
Yeah.
um well, gosh, where do I start? um Relationships have improved, or they've gotten a relationship,
Hmm.
or they've gone from investing low six figures to multiple seven figures.
Yeah, great.
They've purchased more things. They've got more things that they want.
Hmm.
So in those manifested results, everyone has received more of what they want. They've moved,
Hmm.
they've bought more houses, they've improved their employee relationships, they've improved their relationships with who they are, or they ended relationships
Hmm.
and joyfully moved on to other relationships, or they
Hmm.
saw the value, they were ready to end relationships, and they
Hmm.
saw the value and they changed a perspective, and the relationship they were in flourished.
Hmm.
And plenty of relationships that I've coached people on, they don't come to me, some of them come to me specifically for relationships, but the relationship piece always comes into the equation.
Hmm.
And uh, there, all of that has improved. So every aspect of their lives does improve. And the reason is because they start understanding that soul perspective as it relates to their perspective, and start making sense of that. And they're happier people. I mean, that would
Hmm.
be that's the first thing that happens.
That's the big
Right.
one.
I'm saying that last, but that is really the first thing that happens, because most people are more uh, interested in, well, what did they get, like what stuff did they get,
Hmm.
what, everything changes for them. Seriously, my life changed when, is what I hear all the time from my clients.
Yeah.
First they get happy or
Hmm.
happier, and then they feel like their feet are solidly on the ground,
Hmm.
and then they feel like they're in charge and more in control of their own reality. They understand themselves more. They make sense of things from their childhood that
Hmm.
never made sense to them before. They start believing in things that they never believed that they could have. They start expecting things that they expected the opposite of. And it's amazing to see their transformation. So not only do they get more of what they want and feel expectant of more,
Mhm.
but first and foremost, they become different people because they feel differently.
Mhm. I want to circle back to something you said early on in the answer, which is that one of the results that they get is they purchase more things.
Yeah.
There's a there's there's a lot of negative baggage that goes along with a statement like that: buying more stuff, buying more
Mhm.
things. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how, purchasing more things might lead them to become happier?
Oh, well, that doesn't lead them to become happier. And that's why I circled back and said, first thing they get happy, because
Uh,
we're not born. I don't believe that we're born to be, to, to be neglected of our desires. And we're here to manifest. A manifestation is as spiritual as meditation, because
mhm,
we're energy beings. We are
mhm,
here to create. We're not here to deny ourselves of our desires. And so some clients want more houses, some clients want more money, who
mhm.
for the most part, most people I know want more money.
Yeah.
That doesn't make us evil. That
Mhm,
makes us part of this evolving world. If you don't want that, that's completely fine.
mhm,
But at the heart of everything that people want are emotions. So a lot of people want more money for the freedom that they think it'll give them.
mhm,
A lot of people want more stuff because they think it'll give them an identity or some sort of status or a feeling of driving that brand new convertible. Again, the freedom
mhm,
and the fun and the adventure. And so anything that you want is always for the reason that you think you'll feel a certain way once you have it. But
mhm,
as we coach together, people start, that doesn't mean their desires go away, but they start understanding that piece, that it's how you feel first on your way to, on your
mhm,
way to. And this life is supposed to be providing you with anything that you do want. Why make that a horrible, why make that a horrible thing?
mhm,
If you didn't want, if without desires we wouldn't evolve, we wouldn't expand. Desires are part of who we are, and
sure.
because we are here deciding and preferring and not preferring, and so that's part of our expansion. It's expanding the whole universe,
Mhm,
which makes more available to us. But my clients come to understand that it's not about that. It's like, yes, have it, but
mhm,
that's not the reason. That's not the reason that's going to make them happy. So they're not pursuing dreams or desires through empty hearts. They're full, their hearts are full, and they're reaching for more. And isn't that the definition of being eager, satisfied and eager for life?
mhm.
Satisfied and eager, love my life, and there's so much more I want to see and do and be and have and experience.
I love that. Satisfied and eager. Yeah, that's great. Um, that's all I got, Christine. Um, the only other thing that I would drop in is there's a phrase that I've learned to love that harkens back to the turnip discussion, which is engaged indifference, where you're still engaged with the situation, aware like this is the now, this is your life that you're living, but also indifferent about the unimportant stuff, I guess.
And
That's it.
oh, okay. I think perhaps what you're pointing to is I'm aware, I'm not putting my head in the sand,
Yep.
and I'm making choices. I'm
Mm-hmm.
choosing what's going to be a priority to me, and I'm choosing what I'm going to make matter
Mm-hmm.
to me.
And not being too precious about everything, because not everything's going to go your way. Sometimes you're going to get turnips on your plate. Just let them be there.
Right. And I make that point to my clients often. It's that, understanding this doesn't mean that you create this perfect life
Right.
where everything always goes your way. Well, it a lot of things do, because you are more intentional with your vibration. Therefore, your point of attraction becomes more tuned, right? More fine tuned.
Sure.
And that's a lot of the work that I do with my clients. Once we get past that initial, perhaps 9 months, we really start fine tuning things, which is so fun. But that doesn't mean that you're always going to be aware of everything that's going on for you. And that doesn't mean that you should beat yourself up if your life doesn't look perfect, because frankly, everyone who's alive is standing in a place of wanting something more.
Hmm.
We're all in a place of, we could be satisfied or dissatisfied with what we have and where we are, but we're all reaching for more. So just because you stand in a place of desiring more than you have, or a different experience or a different relationship or someone, whatever, to be standing in a place of not completely having everything that you want, I say, yay, good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. And oh, I bumped into I stubbed my toe yesterday. Yay, good for you. Awesome. Made you stop, didn't it? Made you stop, and and you're not blundering so much through that day, are you? Right?
Oh,
It's like,
really?
it's all good. It's all good. It's all
No.
good. Stop taking life so seriously, or yourself so seriously,
Hmm.
or preciously.
Yeah.
But you are precious. But you are precious. You see, like that's that juxtaposition there of, you
Sure.
truly are special. You truly are special, but it's not everybody else's job to make you feel special.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's great. Good stuff. Christine, where can our viewers and listeners connect with you online? Or
Well, my website, ChristineMeyerCoaching.com, Instagram, ChristineMeyerCoaching.com, and LinkedIn, ChristineMeyerCoaching.com. I'm Christine Meyer Coaching wherever you want to look me up.
I
I'm pretty consistent that way.
love your, I was just going to say, I love your, as a marketer myself, I love your brand consistency. Well played.
Oh, thank you. And that's the thing. I don't strategize. Those are just things I tend to know and do, and
Hmm.
then later find out that is the way you do it.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great. I also love your hair that matches my shirt a little bit. for
Yes, it
those
does.
for those listening on the podcast, she's got a purple kind of streaks dyed in through her hair, and I'm wearing a pink button down. So,
Yeah.
anyways, Christine, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an awesome discussion. Your book was fantastic. Like I said, I truly believe that anyone who has ever been offended should read it. It's very empowering, and it's great. Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you. This was really fun. I love this conversation a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our viewers and listeners for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys again next time. Cheers.